You gave her everything. The kind of loyalty that runs deep like rivers carved through stone. And still, she left. Or maybe she never stayed because what you carried, steady as an old wolf, wasn't what she needed. You stood firm while the world shifted beneath your feet, but it felt like invisible armor no one noticed. Loyalty, you found out, isn't a beacon that draws them in. It's a weight that can push you farther away. In those long nights when silence wraps around you like cold iron, you've stared back at a man who gave his all and still wasn't enough. Not because you failed, but because she wanted something else, something lighter, or maybe something that burned too hot for an enduring fire. You wonder if loyalty was ever meant to be the key to her heart, or if it was a crucible to harden yours. Betrayal doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the spark inside the ashes. You're no one's convenience or afterthought. You are the wolf who survives the storms by walking through the fire you thought would consume you, and you come out tougher, sharper, silent, yes, but unbreakable. The man in the mirror isn't the one who failed to hold on. He's the one who learned that staying true to himself is the strongest brand of strength there is. Loyalty isn't the golden ticket to their love. It's the steel forged inside you when everything else falls away. You don't need their approval to know what you're made of. You carry something no one else can steal. The unshakable command of a man who stands when the world demands he falls. This is where true power begins, not in their choosing you, but in choosing yourself when no one else does. You were told to open up, to lay down the armor, to share everything inside. The hang-ups, the broken pieces, the quiet wars you fight alone. That real strength lies in vulnerability, that showing your wounds makes you whole. But what happens when you offer your loyalty like a shield and it slides right past, unnoticed? When your consistent presence becomes a ghost to the people you moved mountains for? Why does giving your all make you invisible, like you're fading behind those who never bothered to look? You stand exposed, waiting for connection, but find only silence echoing back. You thought being good, being true, being open was the path to brotherhood, to genuine respect. Instead, the world hands you cold shoulders and distances measured in miles you never wanted. It's a cruel jest. Train a man to be soft and sincere, then dismiss him as weak for doing just that. Why does the same hand that teaches you to bleed freely refuse to hold you when the pain comes? Why does society insist on tearing down every wall you've painstakingly lowered, celebrating emotional honesty only to mock the messenger? You are not soft. You are a storm contained, a wolf refusing to howl because you've learned silence protects better than words. This isn't strength the world wants. It wants the illusion. It wants you to bare your soul like prey, then feel sorry for what happens when the kill comes. When did masculinity become a silent scream hidden behind eyes that say, "I'm tired of being unseen"? You gave everything, your trust, your voice, your quiet resilience, and still found yourself alone in the thunder. Loyalty became your shadow. Loyalty made you a ghost walking through rooms filled with strangers. You carried the weight and the world looked through you, as if your heartbeats were just background noise in their lives. This isn't honor. This isn't respect. It's a slow erasure of the warrior inside, hammered out by the very hands you once called your brothers. You'll ask yourself again and again, why does being real cost me my place? But here's the truth. You won't hear on the noise-filled streets or from the shallow voices praising vulnerability as a trend. Being emotionally available isn't your weakness. It's your silent war cry. The last piece of armor no storm can break if you choose who to fight and when to fold it away. Only the unworthy dismiss what you give freely. Only those too small to understand greatness mistake quiet strength for submission. You have walked through fire, bled in silence, and still stand unbroken. Your worth is not measured in applause or recognition. It is forged in the stillness, after all the noise fades, where only you decide what it means to stand tall. And invisible is no longer a curse. Pain is not the enemy, it's your chisel, carving the granite of your being into something unbreakable, storm-tested. Picture the oak in the wild, the kind that's stood witness to countless brutal winters, branches snapped off, bark scarred by lightning. It doesn't whimper. It doesn't bow to the wind's fury. It stands rooted, veteran to the storms that try to tear it down. That oak is you. Every cut, every scar, every shattering moment you've endured isn't a mark of weakness. It's the blueprint of your resilience. You've been hammered hard, but those blows didn't shatter you. They shaped you. When you lean into this, the meaning of your pain changes. It's no longer punishment or failure, but refinement. A slow forging of your iron will. I think back to a friend, the one who once chased shadows, running circles after approval like a man desperate for water in a desert that kept moving farther away. He measured his worth by other men's nods, women's fleeting glances, the approval that never filled the hollow in his chest. But one day, something shifted. He planted his feet, not out of stubbornness or pride, but purpose. He stopped becoming who others wanted and started becoming who he was, unapologetically self-sufficient. That's when the weight lifted. The roar of chasing quieted into a steady drumbeat of accountability to himself. That's liberation, turning your heart from an arena where others judge you into a fortress where no insult or rejection pierces your walls. This is the grit of Stoicism. Using your pain not as a burden but as the architect's tool, drafting new shades of strength within your soul. It's not about pretending you're unbothered. It's about choosing what breaks you and what builds you. Within that silence, within that ancient oak still standing tall, lies your truest power, a testament not just to surviving, but mastering the storm inside you. You have to wear detachment like armor, not to numb your senses, but to sharpen them. Because when you stake your worth on what shifts and fades, approval, love, respect, you're a man living inside someone else's storm, tossed like a branch tossed down a raging river. Detachment is not cold, it's clarity. It's the wide-angle lens that lets you see the whole battlefield while others are blinded by the smoke of petty rejection. Your value does not dissolve when they walk away. It stands tall, silent, and unbreakable, like steel forged in fire and hardened by distance. You step back, you breathe, and you recognize that the world doesn't owe you a thing. And that's where real freedom roots itself. Emotional control is the shield you carry into every battle. The world is a hurricane of impulse and reaction designed to crack men open and leave them bleeding in the dirt. But you learn how to stand like a lighthouse in the storm, unmoved by the crashing waves, pinging fires off the fog with calm and steady light. The power isn't in yelling louder. It's in holding your ground when the noise screams for surrender. True strength hums low, calm, certain. It's a heart silent in the chaos, commanding the course, bending the storm around its will rather than breaking alongside it. If you can master this, you become a force other men respect quietly. You don't crash, you endure. Your mission is not a whim or a fleeting want. It's the star that guides your steps through the darkest nights. It's the relentless fire you carry through cold and shadow, the reminder each morning that you rise for something deeper than fleeting praise or easy comfort. Your mission demands the hardest kind of loyalty, the kind that ignites when the world pulls you apart. It's proof you exist beyond their judgments, beyond the weight of disappointment and loss, a visible mark burned deep into the earth by your own two hands. Without this, you drift. With it, you are a man who leads himself into battle before anyone else demands it. Conviction carves the backbone of your identity. In a place where beliefs are traded like coins and discarded like old clothes, you anchor yourself in truth that echoes with the depth of a distant wolf's howl, clear, unwavering, primal. When your values are raw and honest, they resist the rot of convenience and noise. This is the compass that slices through fog and distraction, pointing always to who you are at your core, not who you pretend to be. When conviction carries you, the storm calms because there is nothing to negotiate. No bending, no selling out. Just a quiet, relentless alignment with self. Finally, respect yourself as the sovereign of your own kingdom. Nobody hands this over willingly, and no external nod can crown you king. Your realm is shaped by every choice you make, every line you refuse to cross. This is the weight of a man's dignity, not given but earned silently through the grinding press of discipline. Your standards are your code. They don't waver with the crowd. They don't depend on applause or approval. When you respect your own laws, you build a fortress no rejection can breach. You become a man of presence, of substance, unchallenged and unshaken. The world will test you relentlessly, but inside your walls you remain the ruler of your destiny. You've walked through fire so many times you don't even flinch at the heat anymore. The scars you carry aren't weaknesses. They're proof you survived storms others ran from. No one handed you this strength. You forged it in silence, hammering away at doubt and fear until what remained was pure, unbreakable steel. You don't need validation from empty eyes or approval from voices that never stood beside you. You are sovereign over your own kingdom, a territory marked by discipline, clarity, and unshakable self-respect. This is your world to rule, and it bends only to your will. You are the lone wolf that choosing the cold and quiet over the hollow noise of the pack, knowing full well that this path is yours alone to walk, no matter how far, how hard, how dark it stretches. You are enough, not because of what you give or what you gain, but for the man you've become through every rejection, every loss, every silent dawn spent wrestling with your shadow. The man who stands clear-eyed in the ruins and claims his place without apology. This is not about showing off or impressing anyone. This is about standing rooted, unmoved, as the world spins around you in chaos and doubt. Your spirit is tempered by every trial. It's relentless because you've chosen to be relentless. You don't shout to be heard. You don't need to prove worth. You simply are. I lead in silence.